Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of the Weekend Warrior Show, presented to you by MMA TORCH. I'm Rhys Lawrence, and joining me as always is Chief Editor of the Torch, Sean Covington. And in today's episode, we're just going to be recapping some of the action that you've seen this weekend: Bellator, UFC, PFL. PFL is probably the standout for me. Also, we're going to be looking at some WWE stuff because I imagine that some people out there will remember the fact that there is a certain individual who has been, in my opinion, a massive, massive part to the success of the company in the last 20 years. And that is none other than John Cena, who celebrates 20 years of being a WWE superstar tomorrow. He's going to be doing a special anniversary show in, well, I don't know whereabouts is it, Sean? I haven't got that far yet. Whereabouts is the Monday Night Raw tomorrow?
I forget. I don't know.
Damn. Well, anyway, it doesn't really matter where it is because the fans are going to be traveling for him. It's going to be a pretty.
Should be in Boston.
Probably, yeah.
It would make sense to have it in Boston, but I bet it's not.
Yeah, you'd imagine Massachusetts. Yeah, you'd imagine, but I don't think it will be. But well, hopefully it is. Probably bring that up actually. But yeah, we're going to be talking about that. Probably start there, and then get onto some MMA action later on. Obviously, there was a lot of MMA this weekend, and then obviously you've got the huge card this weekend, July 2nd, UFC with
Mega card.
Yeah, we're going to get to all of it. Actually, Sean, let's just start there because it probably make more sense. Let's get into the MMA action that we've seen this weekend. We'll start with PFL. Just we don't have to talk too much about all of them. There's a lot. I just wanted to put a big shout out there before we started. Stevie Ray, know him, former UFC fighter, had to retire early through a knee injury. Went out with a win against Michael Johnson in Singapore, and that was the end for him, it seemed, until a resurgence, got some treatment, and signed a deal with PFL as part of their playoff regular season, and is now following the biggest win of his career against Anthony Showtime Pettis. 2 wins away from the $1 million. It's a lot. He's going to have to go through a lot to get there, but I mean, what a performance it was. Crazy. So I don't know if you've seen it, Sean. Crazy submission victory. He had the MMA world sort of inquisitive to what he was doing. It was a rare modified twister that he hit on Anthony. And yeah, just a great performance. What's your opinion, Sean, on PFL and this sort
Well,
of
Anthony Pettis
Anthony
Pettis, and you're gonna start editing early, is a fucking disgrace. He really is. It's not about Stevie Ray. I don't give a fuck about him. I really don't. Amazing story, but he's not the name, right? Anthony Pettis is, and
Sure.
Anthony Pettis
You see
has
how they're
really
calling it.
Sharp Cliff, man. Sharp Cliff. He was once at the top of the food chain. He was once the absolute man. Anthony Showtime Pettis. And I was like, yeah, this is the new megastar, guys. We all said that. We was like, yeah, this is him. This is the guy we've been talking about. And what has happened since then, man? Oh my God. He is. Name someone who's fell off worse than Anthony Pettis.
I mean, Tony Ferguson.
No, Tony Ferguson doesn't have nearly as many losses, and he's not losing in the minor leagues.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, no, listen, Anthony Pettis is, former champion, and you're right, it's not gone his way at this point in his career. Obviously, I just throw out Tony, his first name comes to mind, but Tony's been fighting against me.
Oh, yeah, he's fell off. Cerrone, too. But when you look at them, these guys have had major success. Anthony Pettis is that one highlight, and that is it. That is all he has ever been. And it's disgusting. He knew whatever's going on with his camp, whatever he couldn't get back, he should have attempted to get that back. Change camps. Do this. Do that. Like, do whatever you need to do. You lose too many times. Get out of here. He was over before he even joined PFL. But when he went down there, I thought still foolishly, I was like, maybe he can have a resurgence in his career. Much like you just talked about Stevie Ray's story. No, Anthony Pettis' career is over. I hope he's done. He's an embarrassment to himself, not MMA, because keep going up. I don't know, but this thing has to stop. You're getting knocked out. You're getting body locked. You're losing. You're a loser now. MMA has to have people recognize when they're losers and stop losing. Just quit. If that's what it is, retire, man. I'm not trying to. You're disrespecting the sport and maybe making people look like clowns when you don't. Same goes for pro wrestling. How many people should have quit long ago? Like, people were saying, The Undertaker needs one more match. No, the fuck he doesn't. Okay? We saw his last matches. The best match he had, and it should have been, and it was his last and should have been, was AJ Styles. That was his last. That was the last modern match he had. That was really good. I know it was a cinematic match, but it was good. This is exactly who The Undertaker was. And to me, he did his best selling ever, because he no-sold like every fucking thing. He just wasn't good. It wasn't believable. Anyway, he knew when to go out. Even though he didn't want to, he went out when he should have. That was his last match. It was great. He rode off into the sunset at WrestleMania. He got the main event WrestleMania one more time. Anthony Pettis won't even, he can't main event anything ever again. You know what I mean? Like, he's done.
Yeah,
He is done.
I mean,
yeah.
No, just finish your point and I'll have a thought about this.
No, my point is he's a bum now. He's been a bum, but man, I don't want to put him on the bum couch because he shouldn't even be there. He should be retired. Like, there's a such thing as, what's the bum couch? If bums have a couch, what the hell do non-bums have? What do beneath the bums have? The bums of MMA. What, they have a bum floor?
I think,
I don't know.
Anthony, obviously for me it was good. I know what you're saying. You're totally right. Obviously it's an American organization. Anthony Showtime Pettis, one of the biggest stars in the last 10 years in the sport. So they're obviously going to massively promote it through his name rather than Stevie Ray, a relative unknown in America.
Right.
But obviously the story, I've close with Stevie, know him, so it's like, yeah, it's good for him. But obviously focusing on the loss more. It was a great performance by Stevie and a great submission he got off. But yeah,
Crazy
you're talking. It was. Crazy. I mean, had the whole MMA world, online. Francis Ngannou's chirping in with questions of what it was. But yeah, I mean, I think obviously this puts Stevie into a good position coming back from the injury. But if you're thinking about where it leaves Anthony Pettis, I felt since the move from UFC to PFL, I felt like that was sort of the 1 foot out the door.
He was in Bellator getting his ass whooped too.
Who?
Pettis.
No.
Yeah, Anthony Pettis went over there to. He went over there in Bellator a little bit. Maybe. I'm pretty sure he went over there too, though.
No. He went right from UFC to PFL. But his brother was a champion in Bellator. You're probably thinking of him.
Yeah, I do get them confused quite a bit too.
Yeah, I mean, it's natural. Yeah, it's just Sean. For me, I felt like when he made the move, and obviously, he won his last 2 in the UFC before he left. But before that, it was two in a row that he lost. He was sort of just a 1-win, 1-loss. I think once you become champion and you've sort of made your money, you've made your name. Obviously, he's got family, his brother's now coming through. It feels to me there's some guys in there that they're still wanting to be in there, but are they really the same type of guy that they were when they were chasing that belt? Are they really looking to make another push for a championship, or are they just in there for the some of the fights, good paydays because of the name that they've already built up? It feels like he's probably close to maybe looking into maybe a Habib's ELFC, where you're just a guy, you got the name, you can build a card around him on a fun card, but there isn't really there's nothing that suggests that there's another title running him. I don't know. I feel like some guys are always at that. It's not like he's completely declined. It's just that I think he's accepting probably the best days are behind him, and I've sort of accomplished
He's a
what I
one-hit
wanted
wonder.
to.
He's one of the greatest one-hit wonders there will ever be in the MMA, because that highlight will live on forever. His career should have died right after that. It pretty much did. I mean, once he lost that title, it was over.
I mean,
And he lost it.
Yeah, the one knockout against Stephen Thompson, that was another one of those like wow moments. But in a stretch that's a lot of losses in there, it's hard to really pinpoint a good stretch for him.
He's won like 2 fights since then, I think.
Yeah,
I think he's won like 2 fights since then. He lost to Nate Diaz too. I think he lost that. Now, see, that was a good fight though. That actually was a good fight, really good. Like, that was the old Anthony Pettis. I think he got his ass knocked out in that though, if I'm not mistaken. And then Nate Diaz fought. Am I thinking? Is it Nate Diaz I'm thinking of? I'm pretty sure it's Nate Diaz.
No, Diaz. It was a decision with Diaz, but he was getting pieced up.
Yeah.
But yeah, then he got choked out with the era. Remember the Tony Ferguson stoppage victory? Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, but that was that. Okay, so what you say the Stephen Thompson, and like that's that Thompson back to Wonder Boy. Once that happened to Wonder Boy, his shit was over too. Like, let's be for real. MMA math is a thing, at least in people's head, and it makes sense. It's like, if you get knocked out against a guy that's been losing, we're not going to look at you as a top guy, because you need to be able to fight these. I know it's fighting, but once you take that bad loss, you no longer, you have to come back a long way from that. And Wonder Boy never came back from that, if we're being real. Like, there's no way, you can consider him a top guy once he loses to somebody who's a loser, who's been a loser and continues to lose. You have a loss on your record to that dude. You're not a former champion or anything. At least he's a former champion. He could always say that. He has a title in his home. I'm never going to take that away from him. I can't take that away from him. But he probably already pawned it because he's a bum. Anyway, I was thinking, Julia Budd's out against Kayla Harrison. Speaking on PFL real quick. I thought that fight was going to be this weekend because they brought it up. But apparently it wasn't. When is that fight?
The Kayla Harrison fight.
Yeah, it was supposed to be against Julia Budd. Julia Budd, how dare you?
Yeah, that's this
undisclosed injury.
This Friday, I think. This Friday. This Friday.
How do you feel about that? Julia Budd having to pull out undisclosed injury. What are you even doing? Like,
I'm not sure. Listen, I mean, I think any woman that's facing Kayla Harrison knows in PFL that you know what I mean. I think they're probably going in thinking not got much of a chance. Whether that was in her mind, I don't know. I don't know too much about it. But yeah, that's this Friday. I think a bit of a downer from what we've seen, this past weekend for PFL, but still something to look forward to, I guess. What about?
No, man, like, it's nothing to look forward to. Like, Kayla Harrison's gonna beat up another.
It's hard. I don't know. I'm trying to buy into it, because I do think if a profile can continue to build and there is a move within Kayla Harrison to UFC, Bellator, a Chris Cyborg fight, Amanda Nunes fight, like, it's immediately interesting. I mean, right? So I'm just trying to keep that thought process.
It's not gonna happen, man. Like, with Scott Coker, when he was on Twitter, he was like, "Stop doing this." Like, he was like, "What you're doing is unprofessional." He didn't say that, But he said, if you really want to have a fight, you have the numbers of people you can call to actually make a phone call, make an offer, and get a deal done. Stop with the Twitter bullshit because it's unprofessional. He didn't say that, but I'm paraphrasing what he said. He was like, hey, you actually have the means to have negotiations. Go through the proper channels. Stop doing this on social media. That's not how deals happen. If you're for real, you need to hit up some real people. If he's saying that, Dana White is not even considered. He doesn't even know who she is. If Scott Coker's saying that to her, Dana White won't hear anything she's talking about. Hadn't watched the fight, don't give a shit. And nor should anybody else. And you can't act like you're a big deal and you're still in the minor leagues calling your shot like Babe Ruth. Imagine Babe Ruth going to a damn Little League game and just, nah, man, I'm knocking it over there. Yeah, it's Little League, bro. What are you talking about? And the way she mightily struggled in her last fight, no. And I mean mightily struggled. Her opponent was just more skilled than others. That's all. Her opponent didn't have a losing record and just had a bunch of fights. You know, like she's had fights. She actually trains like hard. Unlike everybody else, she's pretty, fought pretty much. So
yeah,
not saying that her opponents were all that they don't try hard. It's just that there's levels of competition, and she definitely moved up last fight, and she was supposed to move up this next fight with Julia Budd. And Julia Budd, you better fight Kayla Harrison, or whatever legacy you had is out of the window. We're not giving you a pass after you gave Chris Cyborg your belt. You gave that ass up in Bellator. Now you got your ass over here. You better fight, and you better put down Kayla Harrison or forget about it. You will never be spoken of again. Move on.
So, speaking of moving on, Johnny Eblen, defeats Gegard Mousasi and becomes the new Bellator middleweight champion. I mean,
didn't see that coming. Didn't see it at all.
12-0.
We were just talking. Everybody was talking about how Mousasi's greatness and where do we move him to. And I was like, man, I don't trust that.
Yeah, let's go on to that because Johnny Eblen, 12-0. I mean, it's not like he was some can walking in there, but look, you're right.
Right? No, not at all.
There was that element of, it's another undefeated fighter. Austin Vanderford, the man before him. Look what Gegard made Austin Vanderford look like he should never have been in there. I thought maybe we'd have seen similar with Johnny Eblen, just in the fact that, like you said, there's levels to competition now. He's 11-0 before fighting Gegard Mousasi, but he's not fought anyone to the level of Gegard Mousasi. Would that have, and especially with the experience and the form that Gegard's in, and people like you saying, Sean, that are comparing him to, is he the best middleweight in the world? Can he beat Israel Adesanya? And so, right after the win against Austin Vanderford, those questions were asked and probably warranted because of how Gegard looked at this point in his career. But, I mean, it was just total domination. 50-45 across the board. Huge wrestling, of course, involved. But I don't know. What's your thoughts on it, Sean?
Well, my thoughts are that people are worried about not giving someone credit like we don't do Tim Duncan, like your basketball guy. Tim Duncan doesn't get the credit he deserves. Tim Duncan, if you're starting a team, just be for real. Let's just get the bullshit out of the way. Tim Duncan, in every way, shape, and form, is better than LeBron James. If you say, no, I'll take LeBron to start a team with, for one, he's not going to stay on your team, so you're an idiot. Two, Tim Duncan started with the legend, David Robinson. He played with that guy, boom, got a ring. People say, he played with a top player. Well, shit, it's 5 people on the court. He's got to play with 4 other ones. Shut up, dude. Like, relax. And it's not like David Robinson was some spring chicken and he was young and fresh. David Robinson was well past his prime, still good enough to do what he needed to do. it's crazy to think that David Robinson had just a little bit of help and he looked magnificent. You know, he looked like Tim Duncan. when you know, he put him back in his prime. Imagine if Tim Duncan had gotten there like 5 years earlier. Like the Bulls would have had legitimate problems with the Spurs, you know. But my point is, people want to give others their flowers while they're here. That's great. The problem is in MMA, it's a one and done, man. You could be Anthony Pettis easily, you know, real easy. So I know I give Anthony Pettis a hard time and stuff like that. But once you at the top, to whom much is given, much is expected. We gave him high praise for his highlights, for being a champion, and for being a big time name like that. You know, a big time a player in the game and major player in the MMA game, and he let us all down. So we're looking for the next Tim Duncan, right? A lot of people looking for the next LeBron James too, but like MMA is consistency. You know, that's what it's all about. So we're looking for Tim Duncan because he's one of the most consistent players ever to play, if not the absolute most consistent basketball player of all time. I'll say even more so than Michael Jordan, because Michael Jordan was so skilled that he couldn't beat every single thing all at once, all of the time. But Tim Duncan had less skills, but he honed them and he did those skills consistently. And that's Mousasi. That's Gregor Mousasi. Consistent skills, consistently. He knows what he's good at. He's skilled. He does that stuff. You know, he's not trying to be necessarily the greatest of all time. Just being consistent makes him great, right? And then that's when we start to have the conversation, like much like when, you know, the real basketball fans do when it comes to Tim Duncan. Now it's like, okay, so are we ready to say he's a top whatever? And that's when it happens. That's when you get snapped back into reality as MMA. It's like, no, he has to beat this next guy. Just like Khabib Nurmagomedov, he can kiss my ass. You know why? He didn't fight Michael Chandler. Don't let, I want to fight all the new guys, come out of your mouth. And Michael Chandler comes over, and where are you? You retired. Get your lazy ass or scared ass out of retirement and go beat his ass. Because you said you wanted new guys, fresh guys. I beat everybody here. Beat his ass because he's on the way. Who else was on the way up? Charles Oliveira. You didn't fight him either. Go whoop those two people's asses, and then I'll call you the greatest of all time. Until then, no. I saw GSP come back and win the belt. Okay? He came back and crushed the doubt. That's why he's the GOAT, because he came back and he did that. Until Nurmagomedov does it, and he won't, he will never be the GOAT. I don't give a damn how many rounds he didn't lose. I don't care. There were two people on the horizon that could have knocked his ass out, and he left before that. I know it's kind of a timing issue, you know what I mean? Like, he wanted to start Eagle FC. He wanted to get his stuff done and out of the way, and he had already created a legacy, and we talk about him as being one of the GOATs, if not the GOAT. So he's fine in that regard. I get it. But personally, I saw those people on the horizon. You heard the chatter of Michael Chandler coming up. We all did. You saw Charles Oliveira and you heard the chatter. You saw his skills. You didn't fight that dude. You should have chosen to fight him before he even entered the top 5. You know why? Because you want to crush all doubt that you are the best. I want to take the new up-and-coming guy and whoop his ass. That's what I want. That's what every champion should do, and they don't do that. They don't do that. They're scared. It's all, I'm going to miss out on the payday. Knock him out. Knock him out. Do the best. I don't want to hear about training camps and shit. If I put you in a cage with this dude right now and say, fight him, you should win every time if you're the greatest. If not, what are we really talking about? What are we really talking about?
Yeah, sorry, I mean, no, because it makes sense. I like the correlation between the basketball analogy, because it's good when you can compare a fighter to a certain sports star that people can cross-reference because they understand it. I mean, we're going to be talking about WWE later, and I'm going to be bringing up a bit of a Mount Rushmore element to it, and we can all, it's fun to do the who's your greatest, talking about Gegard Mousasi, is he better than Adesanya? It's all a bit of talk, really, nothing really to go behind it, because it never happened. That fight especially. I mean, yeah, I mean, I
Let me jump in real quick. Mousasi fought that up and coming, like I said, right?
Yeah.
He didn't win though. That's the problem. He didn't win. Like, I like my champions to do that, but he didn't beat that guy. He didn't beat him. It's hard to do, but that's what makes you the greatest. If you can knock out the newcoming guy. I put it to you like this, and he should have beat him twice. He beat him this second time too. Demetrius Johnson he beat Henry Cejudo when he was coming up, right? He took that fight. Henry Cejudo was knocking people out left and right, and Demetrius Johnson beat him on his rise. He arguably beat him. I think he beat him in the last fight too, on the cards. But my point is, he took the fight. He beat him. That's why Demetrius Johnson is one of the GOATs. He is. I mean, a lot of people don't disagree with that either. He cleaned out that division, stayed there, and then fought that guy again and arguably beat him. So, I mean, that's what I'm talking about. But go ahead.
Yeah, no, I understand where you're coming from. Listen, it was a bit of a shock, but sometimes it's good to get a bit of a shock, because now there's a bit of a, there could be a rematch. It could be a big deal. I think more people are talking about it now than they were beforehand. I don't think it was, maybe with Austin it was a bit more of a big deal because he's maybe a bit bigger of a name, and Gegard looked good. This one, it's, I don't know if there was much talk before it, but we'll see where it goes. Obviously there was UFC action as well. Decent card. I just this weekend caught up with UFC Austin, Sean, and you weren't lying about how good that card was. It was just, you don't get a fight night better than that. The crowd, the fights.
They should have rushed to put on another card like that. They should have scrambled to put out the absolute best card. They should have moved up Donald Cerrone's fight. They should have just moved every fight up. Every fight. Here's the thing. I don't give a fuck about Max Holloway more than I do an entire card. Max Holloway and Volkanovski 3, I don't care. I'd rather watch UFC Austin again. I haven't even seen that third fight. Don't care. Because that card is better than the card we're going to see this week. I know that for a fact, because there's only 2 fights people really want to see on that card. That's the main 2 fights, and they build it like that. That's on them. So what they should have did was move everything. They should have contingencies in place to where they can have stuff like that. I know you got to get a fight license. It doesn't work like that. It really doesn't. That is why they need a plan to, when they have a great card, capitalize on it. The fact that they had a card this week is great, but nobody gave a damn. And plus, you were going up against other competition in terms of when people say MMA it's MMA this weekend. Which one are you going to watch? You can't watch everything. Not necessarily. I mean, I do, but not everybody's that committed and hardcore, and not everybody's an analyst. So I just think they kind of failed themselves by not putting one name on there. You got Donald Cerrone already replacing somebody. You should have put him you should have put him on here as a main event or co-main if you wanted to, just to beef up the card and capitalize off the success you had last week.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's hard to argue that it's going to be better than what we've seen last weekend, this coming July 2nd card, which is completely stacked. But, just because they're stacked doesn't mean the card will be good. Hopefully it will be. I mean, this card was decent. Obviously the main standout to me, Shavkat Rakhmonov. I mean, we said it before last week, Sean. It's obviously a great matchup with Neil Magny. Neil Magny's no slouch, and he's a guy that, a lot of people sort of avoid fighting. But this kid's
yeah, because he can beat you.
He can
beat you. He can beat anybody. He can beat anybody in the world, man. And that's crazy.
on his day, Neil Magny can fight the best of them, but he's coming up against the guy that this Shafkat guy is just. He is one of the rising stars, one of the prospects for the future, but it seems like it's coming quicker than most anticipated.
And that's what you got to do. Like, Neil Magny has to fight those guys. Like, Neil Magny's been around a while. People wouldn't consider him a great or nothing like that, but that's a guy you got to give his flowers to, because he could on his best day, he gonna beat you. Like, he's a problem. He's too skilled, too highly skilled. Like I say, he reminds me of a Carlos Condit. You can't come in there sloppy against Neil Magny. You got to come in there with whatever game plan. You can be better than him, that's fine. But if I have 9 times out of 10, you beat Neil Magny, but he's probably gonna beat you once. You know, that's a Neil Magny right there. He's the reason for 9 times out of 10. You know, if you're better than him, you're better than him. That's one thing. But he's the one guy that's gonna give you that 1L. So you need to be careful. The guy's 26-10. You know, he's no slouch. And he doesn't lose to, like, he just lost to somebody who's 16-0.
Yeah, good dude's a beast.
15-0, but like, yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's not like he lost to a bum, or he's an up and coming guy. It happens. But that's the fight you got to take if you're Neil Magny. If you stop all the up and comers, then you are the guy who's up and coming, and now you are gonna get a title shot. You know, he didn't do that, so he's not in the title picture. But like, that's how you end up doing it. You stop 4 or 5 guys that are on the rise, that are knocking everybody out, and you humble them, then it's going to be your turn, man. You know? So I applaud him on taking the fight and stuff, but yeah, that was, it is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, great, submission, guillotine choke. I think it was like 2 seconds left in round 2, and he pulls it out. But main event was good as well. You know, good scrap. Matisse Gamrot getting the victory, moves to 21-1. You know, not probably, obviously not a title shot in the next 1 or 2 fights for him, but it definitely puts him in the right spot. And sometimes you just need a card like that, you know, obviously coming off a crazy one in Austin, and now you've got the massive card. I mean, it's always, we're going to get onto that later in the show. I think I'm going to end with that, previewing UFC 276.
Only
Go on, Sean.
Yeah. Only one female fight on that card in the prelims, and it was just kind of like, you know, it was a decision. Hey, like I said before, man, you want to be main eventers, step it up. Ronda Rousey was finishing people, and now she main evented stuff like WrestleMania, make hella revenue off of that stuff. Say what you want, Juliana Peñas of the world, but like, you're gonna make bullshit money compared to her. And you're not nearly the champion Ronda Rousey was. You shouldn't even have a title. You know, I get how Holly Holm was a nightmare for Ronda Rousey, but I don't think Juliana Peña beats her. If we're being real, I don't think she beats her. I think Ronda Rousey's jiu-jitsu in her prime is way better than Juliana Peña. It would just, it'd been any skill she possessed, especially her striking. Her striking was cool. It was cool. But like, you know, if you gassed out, I'm going to get knocked out too. I guarantee you, Juliana Peña knocks both you and me out in succession, one after the other. That's cool. Right?
Each other. Yeah.
You know, right. You know, that's fun. Right. Lay us out right side by side, parallel, you know. But that don't mean she's going to beat like a Ronda Rousey. She's throwing shade on her and talking shit. And it's like, it's just, you guys are getting one fight on the card, and it's a decision fight. No, like, reevaluate what's special to you and what's good to you in the world, if that's what's going on, because women's MMA may not be it. And people who are like, oh, they don't give women a chance. This is why. You're not finishing anyone, and that MMA math really adds up. It's like, well, you didn't finish this person. How many, all the female fights on that last card, the Austin card, I think one didn't go to decision. I think. But if I'm not mistaken, I want to say all of them went to decision without looking at it. I want to say all of them went to decision. And that's awful. And we should talk about how shitty it is, instead of kissing somebody's ass all the time and saying, oh, let the women fight. No, Don't let them fight. If they can't knock people out, they can't submit them. Get these goddamn fights done. Just like everybody else did in Austin, you get it done. Or you don't get fights on the card. That is your fault, your problem. You don't get equal like that. Equal pay, equal this. Fuck that. Go out and knock that bitch out if you want some money. If you want to get top billing, knock her the fuck out. Sorry.
That's cool. That's cool. You got to get some demons out, Sean. It's cool. Listen, the card was good. Had some names probably that the regular viewer wouldn't sort of know too much about, but you obviously had, Brian Kelleher, always a fun fighter. He doesn't get the victory this time out. Carlos Ulberg is a rising star, alongside Israel Adesanya and Volkanovski, part of that Kiwi team. Chris Curtis still doing the thing. Chris Curtis, another guy, Sean, that you would have to give flowers to. Going through his career, so many organizations he's fought for. He's fought all around the world, and somehow at this point in his career, he's made it all come together. Umar Nurmagomedov, Khabib Prodigy gets another win. Thiago Moises. So overall, it was a decent card. Obviously not quite as good as last weekend's, but you can't help that. It was probably the best card I've seen this year. So, yeah.
You can't do it all the time, and they did a good job. By the way, all the women, it was 3 fights on there. It was 3 decisions.
Yeah, I mean, that's sure. That's a good bet to have every weekend, is having all the women fights, parlaying that with a decision outcome. Like 9 times out of 10 that comes in, and it's just the way it is. I mean,
not this week, because every time you say something like that and point out the statistic, the statistic around that is that by the time you find the anomaly, it is time for that anomaly to occur.
Yeah.
Once you figure out the pattern, you have to realize that the pattern is also you. That you have figured out that there's going to be an anomaly, and that anomaly will occur when you figured out the pattern. So now the pattern may be in danger of changing. So don't make that bet. Don't.
I will make it now.
Right. If you had known before this, then yes. But you don't know before this now. It's been too long. The data's too much. Now there will be an anomaly. And you'll be like, damn, what happened? Yep, don't parlay like that. Trust
me. So that was sort of the weekend's action. We're gonna shift it over now, Sean. We're gonna make it a little bit of a WWE type podcast because, like I said to start with, there's a big occasion happening tomorrow night on Raw. I want to get your thoughts first on tomorrow. What it means for the company and things. Is it a big deal? Am I looking into it too much? What's your thoughts on, obviously, the 20 years of Cena tomorrow night on Raw?
Well, see, I was never a Cena. Well, not never a Cena guy. I was a Doctor of Thugonomics Cena guy, spinner belt Cena guy. Yeah. But when he went up against Brock Lesnar, that was great too. That feud was great. But when he came back babyface and stuff, I didn't like the babyface run from the very beginning.
Yeah.
I saw what they were doing and stuff like that. But over time, when you look at his career, he's that dude. Undeniably, I hate that they put the title on him so many times that they just felt like they had to. But absence a mega star like a Roman Reigns, what else were you gonna do? Like there's not much you can do to get once you're over with the fans. And John Cena got over in a way that just won't ever end. So kudos to that. You got it, they're giving him his flowers, and I'm glad they started doing that because you got the Randy Ortons, the Triple H's, the Undertakers. You got guys that have been doing it for so long that they've been part of your biggest success over decades. You got 2 decades. John Cena has been part of your overall success. That's half the time Vince McMahon has owned the company.
Crazy.
That's crazy. The other, you got him, Randy Orton, you got Cena, Randy Orton, and Taker. Those guys are just those guys alone. Just those guys alone. Then you got Stone Cold, right? You got Stone Cold also.
Shawn Michaels, Ric Flair.
The Rock. And The Rock hasn't even been, think about how big The Rock is. If you're Vince McMahon, you know how big you're going to make him. You saw what happened with Hulk Hogan, right? You saw it.
Yeah.
You didn't come up with his gimmick, but you made that gimmick work on a national stage and everybody ate it up. So you knew you were going to be able to do it again. You knew you were going to, he was terrible in movies, but you knew you would get somebody who wasn't terrible in movies. Well, I'm sorry, eventually would not be terrible in movies because The Rock was horrible at first. You know, not, it wasn't him being horrible. It was just the fact that he was in terrible movies like Doom and The Tooth Fairy and shit like that. But
Yeah, they're
my
the
point
best,
is,
you know.
yeah, my point is, you laid out the blueprint and you put it out there, and even though they, the earlier starts were in shitty movies like Thunder in Paradise and stuff like Mr. Nanny, Hulk Hogan was in some of the worst movies ever made, ever. But he did No Holds Barred with Zeus. Rest in peace, Tiny Lister, or Debo, as some people like to call him. But he did that movie, and yeah, it's terrible. He says duty in the movie, or dookie. You know, he said somebody smelled like dookie. Like, that's horrible. But it's No Holds Barred, man. No Holds Barred. So it doesn't matter. That movie, you mention that movie, and people are like, yeah, it's great. It's not great, but it's great. Then you come along, you get The Rock. Vince knew he wasn't going to be long for the WWE because he saw what happened with Hogan when you hit megastardom. So he knew he's building up a product that's going to be one day even run for president. It's crazy. Then you get to Cena and you hit exactly what you want to hit. John Cena is the greatest accomplishment of the WWE. Not just Vince McMahon, but Vince Senior too. That is the product they wanted to put out. They wanted to find a man who was as charismatic as a Hulk Hogan, who had the body of a Bruno Sammartino, and could talk like he owned the company, like a Vince McMahon, wear a good suit. John Cena is the blueprint. He's the blueprint. Now, although he's a heel, Roman Reigns is now following that exact same blueprint. He doesn't. Yep. He's the face of the company as a heel, and I think that's the best part of it because he's doing it in a way that John Cena couldn't. John Cena could have did it as a heel, but like, it's good to have a heel guy representing your company.
The difference with Roman is that he's been forced to be a heel, and because I don't think they could do this blueprint with Roman Reigns trying to be maybe the next. Obviously, he wants to be the one and only Roman Reigns, but it's like there is a blueprint of John Cena. Is like you said, he is the epitome of that company. He is the exact product of what they've tried to accomplish to becoming a massive company, and he's propelled them to do that. Don't think Roman Reigns could do it in the way that he did it, and I think people will be bored of it because they've seen it and they really didn't like the John Cena corporate.
That's why they rejected
face, and they've now got him as a heel, and it works. People don't like him, but people respect him, and he is the
Hogan the same way. It's weird. I didn't know that because I was living through it, but people hated Hogan the same way. All the smart marks. Oh, Hogan this and that. And he goes to Japan and he has, he actually wrestled. And people don't tell you that. They just say, oh, Hulk Hogan was the worst wrestler. I used to think he was one of the worst wrestlers too when I became a smart mark. I was like, oh, this guy can't wrestle. And then I saw that, had match over in Japan. I was like, well, maybe he just doesn't do it over here because it's a different style. That's when I realized how different WWE was from every other product. But I still chose WWE because it's what I grew up with. It's what I knew. But what I also knew and grew up with, well, not necessarily grew up with myself, but Ric Flair was the biggest influence. I would argue the biggest influences on wrestling, and they're separate influences, but they're equal. that you cannot compare them. They are in a league of their own. There's no Mount Rushmore. If there is, they're the top.
Well,
I don't know
we're
who
gonna
is.
get onto that in a little bit, Sean. We want to get your picks, but I like what you said there about influence. I was just going to get onto that point. I mean, maybe get your thoughts on it. Obviously, a bit older than me, know more about maybe not know more, but well, you do know more. But you have a better understanding of the guys before him and after Cena. The influence, I think, obviously, it means a lot. I think to a lot of people tomorrow in terms of for WWE as well. For me, obviously, as growing up as a kid, that was all you seen. It was John Cena's face. You know, I used to go to um, loads of shows when they came we did the tours in the UK, and he was just everywhere. He was what Roman Reigns is now. You know, the face of the company, and you see videos of Roman out on all the shows, all the tours every night. That's what the big stars do, and that's never changed. I mean, for me, he is just as good outside of. They're obviously now, you know, turned his attention more to different projects, filmmaking and charity work. Obviously, he's massively into Make-A-Wish Foundation for kids. I think all that plays a part into the career and resume that's built, and the sort of the name and the icon that he sort of made himself. He's sort of like a brand, like The Rock now, sort of followed in his footsteps of, you know, filmmaking. Not made as
A
many
much
terrible
better
movies as The Rock, but I just
actor, though. Like,
yeah. I mean,
yeah.
For me, Sean, it's just good to see, and I'm glad they are, like you said, sort of now honouring superstars. I think before it was more just sort of like make it sort of a one night thing. Obviously, you can see all social media how this month full of Cena, and I'll say tomorrow night's going to be big. But yeah, just, you know, I mean, your thoughts on what I mean, you've said that he is sort of the cornerstone to the company now, you know, 20 years.
Yeah.
I was wondering, do you feel that there is going to be a bigger story to this? You know, obviously the championships that he's accumulated. We thought last year that maybe beating Roman Reigns would get him the record-breaking title reign. Where is
You
this
thought
Ric
that.
Flair? Where is this going to? Is it going to come out tomorrow night? Or is there going to be a push for Cena to go and get that next belt and take over Ric Flair, or do you think out of respect
Nah.
he'll keep it for Ric Flair?
I think out of respect, they're going to give it to Randy Orton. I think Randy Orton has to catch up. They should have actually called him up already. Here's the crazy part. John Cena's in such good shape. There's no rush. He can wrestle whenever the fuck he wants to. Like, right? I mean, he can. Like, The Rock had been out of it so long that he had a lot of injuries when him and John Cena wrestled. And also, he just really wasn't quite as good in terms of he had the motions and stuff like that. But John Cena had been he was fresh, and he had been around different types of wrestlers, you know, and he's had to wrestle very different types of matches than The Rock. Not saying that those guys, don't get me wrong, The Rock wrestled the greats, but it wasn't as the game had changed by then. So by the time John Cena was wrestling The Rock, it was a very different kind of match. It wasn't a 1998 match, you know what I mean? So that's The Rock's default. That's like 2002. That's The Rock's default right there. That's his go-to year. Cena's was like 2010 or something like that. So, you know, you got a decade. You got like a decade between when they were at their primes and stuff or whatever. My point being is like just they can't. Cena is on a different level in terms of his readiness. If that makes any sense, because of the different style of wrestling he's had to handle over his career, like having a match with a Seth Rollins. Think about that. Seth Rollins is the new gold standard. So if Seth Rollins is the new gold standard and Rock's never faced him, it stands to reason that The Rock wouldn't have he wouldn't be nearly as ready as a John Cena. But with that, all I'm saying is John Cena's ready to go, and they keep Randy ready to go too, which is why they should have given him his another title reign by now. And then we're talking about vacating that title somehow, and then having that vacant title be fought over at WrestleMania between Cena and Orton goes over. And Cena would put Orton over. He definitely would.
I like how you're bringing up all these great wrestling superstars because, like I said before, Sean, obviously to commemorate the 20 years of Cena, arguably the greatest, he's definitely one of the greatest if you put him 1, 2, 3, wherever you put him. But I'd like to do that with you, Sean. Didn't really give you any heads up because I'd like to just get your immediate thought rather than really researched. But I'm going to go first and give my wrestling Mount Rushmore. And then you can maybe just obviously take a little bit of time to think about it. You probably got an idea of maybe 1, 2, or 3 of them. Maybe it's always that fourth spot. I think sometimes it's difficult to land. But obviously for me, this is a sort of special episode as well to look back on the career. And obviously tomorrow night is going to be big. I do have John Cena as one of 4 people on Mount Rushmore, just because of everything we've said. Just everything he's done for the company and what he's transcended himself into from not just because he's now not just a wrestler. It's hard, I think, for some wrestlers to get off that just a WWE wrestler. The Rock's done it comfortably now. Most people would probably imagine him as an actor, a young kid, rather than a guy that wrestled in the 90s. That says a lot. I've also got Undertaker on there. How can you not? It's just,
right.
It's hard really to argue not. Obviously you can't fit everyone on. So I've got Cena, I've got Undertaker. I do have The Rock on there. I think with The Rock, I think he's probably just one you could just chuck on there because of how big he became, what he did when he was there. Obviously, it wasn't like a John Cena, Randy Orton, Undertaker 30-year career there. It was a shortened, but what he did in that span, it was pretty spectacular. And the fourth spot, like I said, Sean, it's always difficult. It was a toss-up between Flair and Michaels. I didn't put Austin on there. Most people would, but I sort of always think that Austin and Rock sort of go hand in hand.
Right, they fit in one spot because you can't have one without the other. So they're a tandem. They're almost a tag team.
Definitely, what those rivalries.
It's impossible to put one without the other. So they can't take up one spot because they occupy the same space.
That's what I was sort of thinking. You pick Rock, people know in their heads that Austin. I kind of get 5 on there, but So John Cena, Undertaker, Rock. My final slot, I did in the end have to go back to Mr. 16 himself, Ric Flair. Just what he's done. The wrestler, the businessman that he came into later on. The charisma. Obviously the generation with his daughter now involved. It's just, when you think of wrestling, you think of Ric Flair. They just go hand in hand. And for me, Shawn Michaels, I did really think about Shawn Michaels, but when you've got Ric Flair there, it's like,
I would put Shawn Michaels on it. No, so I was speaking earlier on the 3 people that transcend us, Mount Rushmore. I'll go into a few things. Mount Rushmore, a bit antiquated. We do it because it's just the top 4, right?
Yeah.
4 is a little unfair. It's not just a little unfair. It's very unfair. Let's just go with basketball. You got 5 players at least, so it should be 5.
Yeah,
it should be 5. It should always. Well,
I've kind of picked 5. I've got Austin on my underneath the Rock. If they could split a half face, I'd put both of them on it. So that would be mine. You've got Cena, Taker, Rock, and Flair. I want your 4 next.
So I'm gonna give. So you should only do. I went to a Comic Con. It was Chico Con here in Chico, California, and they had different Mount Rushmores. It was an artist there that had dope They were dope Mount Rushmores. And it was for different teams, different eras, different everything. And then it dawned on me, you cannot have a Mount Rushmore for all of wrestling. You cannot do it. There are people who transcended that we can't even really. Okay, so El Santo
Yeah.
transcends. Yeah, that's it. That's all I need to do is bring up his name.
There's
Hulk
people
Hogan.
that won't get the
So this
recognition.
is the
It's like in every sport,
yeah.
and it's like what they did in that one moment to transcend what the sport is now. It would never have been without those guys. So you're right. You can't pick four guys, but you know.
So there's Flair, Hogan, and El Santo. Those are the three top guys that influenced wrestling and culture in a way that we have never gotten away from. There's a couple other people, but when you think of pro wrestling, the next guy after Flair, Hogan, and El Santo is probably Macho Man. Oh yeah, he's the other second most imitated. He's like when you imitate pro wrestlers, you don't imitate Flair and El Santo. You imitate Hogan and Macho Man. So the absolute four. If you got to have a Mount Rushmore, these are the people who transcend pop culture. They are pop culture references. Like Michael Jordan and Michael Jackson and Mike Tyson, the three Mikes. They transcend what they've done. They are pop culture icons. Macho Man is one of them. Macho Man, Hogan, Flair, El Santo. Because you're not wearing a mask. El Santo was the guy wearing the mask. Look at Legato right now on NXT. There you go. That's El Santo. Look at Rey Mysterio. Boom. There you go. Now you can have a Mount Rushmore of anything. If we're talking about Mount Rushmore of WCW, who you put there? It's got to be Goldberg. And then who else? Because you could just go with the NWO if you felt like it. Right. See, I go a little different. I know Goldberg has to be one of them because he was a WCW guy, right?
Yeah. Then
who else do you get? Because Rey Mysterio has had a lengthy career in WWE. So is Eddie. So is, so I go Diamond Dallas Page, Goldberg, Booker T. See, he's even had a lengthy WWE career. But then it gets sketchy. It's just, but then what you want is do you want my WWE top four?
I see. I like the way you did it because I knew my Mount Rushmore list was good, but I knew yours would probably be a bit better because you've got the culture, the history, in there. I like the way you're thinking of yours. Don't put it to WCW. Don't put it to WWF. Just in general, the entirety of the company in pro wrestling. But I think
could do a top WWE. That's Bruno Sammartino, Hulk Hogan, Andre the Giant, John Cena. Sure. There you go. But see, I kind of gave you all the same guys all at the same time. Bruno, that's Brock Lesnar now. That's Brock Lesnar, right? Then I said Hogan. That's John Cena. So I'm giving you archetypes. When I gave my Mount Rushmore, they're archetypes. There is one El Santo, one Ric Flair, one Macho Man, one Hogan. You take those four archetypes, you take them down. So everybody's going to fall underneath one of them, or should anyway.
Sean, we'll end like this then. I want your four guys, or girls, but probably four guys, on the Mount Rushmore. When you encompass everything together, you look at WCW, WWF, all the entirety of the history of pro wrestling, culture, everything, absolutely everything, and you have to whittle it down to the four guys of all the guys you've mentioned. I want.
Then it's those. It's those four. It's Macho Man, Hogan, Flair, and El Santo, because the style. Is all the style. And when you think about it, Hogan and Macho Man are similar in the whole color scheme and the way they spoke and everything. But when you go to those movies, like No Holds Barred. That's it. I can mention No Holds Barred, and Hogan gets on the list forever. He brought about, much like the Undertaker did, he brought about another character like Zeus. That character didn't exist. Now he does. I mean, he's dead now, but like, you get what I'm saying. Like, when you can bring in, he beat Andre the Giant, man. This dude was what, the eighth wonder, and China was the ninth, right? Yeah, he was the eighth wonder of the world.
Yeah.
Andre the Giant. Andre the Giant almost.
I thought of Andre.
Transcends.
It's hard, like you said, you can't put it to four people. I put mine mainly based on sort of who I've actually watched. I think it's sometimes where you think you can talk about people, but Hogan definitely should be on there. But did you watch them in their greatness whilst they were doing it, or did you watch them back?
No, I've watched Hulk Hogan body slam Andre the Giant. I got the belt that they never really used.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, I know you have. I'm just like sort of putting it out there for like probably people my age and younger. How can you really say, even if you did watch them, it's not the same? You didn't watch him slam at WrestleMania. It's not the same. So
Seth Rollins is Macho Man right now. Think about what I just told you. Think about that. He's Macho Man. He's that crazy promo. He's that swagger, that crazy outfit he'll wear.
Yeah,
he's all colorful and everything.
Back hair, the chest.
But damn, in the ring, the guy is the best. Of all of those, the top four I named, Macho Man is easily the best wrestler of those four, and those four are great. Hogan, Japanese Hogan, man, don't go up against him. You're dead. He would kill you in a matter of seconds, and I mean that. Japanese Hogan is all elite. How do you like that? But no, he's elite, man. Don't touch him. He's Bret Hart elite. That's how good that Japanese Hogan is. He's possibly much better than Bret Hart was. Think about this, man. Don't go up against Japanese Hogan. The only people I'd have do that ever is those top four wrestlers you can't get around. They're better than you in every conceivable way. You want to have a real match? I'll put it to you like this. The first person I named that came out of my mouth was El Santo.
Yeah.
Nacho Libre had his son in it. That whole damn movie. You know what I'm saying? That movie.
What movie?
Doesn't happen without him. A whole movie doesn't happen without him. And he only took his damn mask off once. He died like a week later. He only took his mask off once. That's kayfabe, man. That's kayfabe till I die.
Well,
nobody did it like that. Macho Man, kayfabe till he died. Because Macho Man, I had a homie that met him. He was Macho Man all the time. He was never not Macho Man. That's who he was.
Yeah. I mean, honorable mentions for me would be, like you said, El Santo, Bruno Sammartino, Andre the Giant, Randy Orton was another one. Obviously, Shawn Michaels, I said. Just so many. And it's great that tomorrow night they get to commemorate one of those level of guys. Really, you're talking, both on my Mount Rushmore and on Sean's WWE Mount Rushmore. John Cena, 20 years in WWE, is going to be a fun one to watch. I know Sean will be watching, I'll be watching. Hopefully, some guys that perhaps are more just MMA orientated, just watch a little bit, because I think they'll appreciate. If John Cena was in MMA, he'd be one of the best and most talked about guys because of his mic skills. So it's like they'll go, it's just wrestling or whatever. I think sometimes athletes like that transcend.
He'd be Kobe Covington but he'd be the opposite of what he says on the mic. But he'd be Kobe Covington, yeah.
Just
without a doubt, he'd be
different level. Dr. Thugonomics.
He's Randy Couture. He would be Captain America. Randy Couture, definitely on the mic. He'd be Randy Couture on the mic, but with like a lot more charisma, and he'd be Kobe Covington in the ring. In the octagon. So
well, there's no better way to leave it. Like I said, obviously we've got UFC 276. this weekend, Israel Adesanya defends his belt against Jared Cannonier. Volkanovski versus Holloway. You've got Pedro Munoz taking on Sean O'Malley. You've got Alex Pereira versus Sean Strickland. A lot of controversial personalities on that card. I think me and Sean will get something out for you guys before that one. But if not, we'll be here again on a week today to recap it all. But for myself and Sean, it's been another episode of the Weekend Warrior Show, presented to you by MMA Torch. Have a good week. Enjoy UFC 276, but most importantly, enjoy tomorrow night. John Cena, 20 years on Raw. Don't miss it.